Hi everyone, it's Laura from Grain & Company, and today I am here with June's Creative Maker subscription box. So in your box you'll find your base for your sign, and then we've got most of your Canadian design part on your big sheet, and then you've got this little part here, which is the green part that will overlap on the map. So we're just going to put that aside for a bit, and as well as this, and I'm going to get started with staining this piece. So we're going to stain the back and the front and the sides. Now, as we all know, materials are sometimes difficult to get, so these wood bases are not the best quality as I would like, as we normally offer. So we do what we can these days, and so you may see a little bit of tear out on the back, and that's just because that type of wood is a domestic instead of an imported, where we used to get it from Russia when they used to bring in the wood. But we know that's not possible, and it's definitely starting to affect us more and more in terms of our material. So that's why we'll have the shiplap lines on the better side, and then the back will have those tear outs on there. So my apologies. Most of it should be hidden with the stain, but it still bugs me. So it's not much we can do, but when we want to do sign bases like this is kind of the sacrifice we have to have. So so you're going to have your whole wheat stain. So maybe just give that a little shake if it's been sitting in its container there for a little bit. So grab your stain, your gloves, a foam brush, and your paper towel. So I'm going to start in the front, and then I'm going to do my sides, because I want to make sure that I'm not getting an overlap on the front side if you get too heavy on the stain, because we'd rather have that on the back. So I'm just going to, normally I don't do it out of these containers, but I'm just trying to figure out exactly how much stain to get you guys. So I'm actually going to start on the edge here, because then I can come in, take that, and wipe this right away. The goal is I'm trying not to get it too heavy here, because you don't want too much of an overlap, otherwise you'll have this nice darker line instead, which we don't want, because normally we don't have to do the sides because we have the laser pieces. So if you find you're getting a little too heavy, then don't stain this part until this is dry. Whoops. Because you can always come back and sand this back a little bit so it lightens it, and then go ahead and just stain the top part. Oops. See, as you can see, I'm not using a whole lot, and especially for the sides, you don't necessarily want that, because you don't want that heavy of a line. So just blend that out. Really, for the side, like you can see, that's just very little. And then come back and get that wiped right away. Okay, so here we go. So now we're going to come in here and do this. So what I'm going to do is, with the grooves, I like to do those first. So I've got some in here, and I'm just going to kind of squish my brush a bit so it catches that bottom, and then I'm going to go back in here and wipe it on. Now, I like to turn it on the side because you tend to use less stain and you have a bit more control, and because that's how much stain I give you guys to do it that way. If you tend to stain a little heavy, you may not have enough, but so just remember that. So give it a dip, go in the grooves, just gently fill in that. It doesn't need to be going over and over. Just dip a little bit more, turn it on its side, and wipe. And if you push on that as you wipe, you're getting all that extra stain out of there. And then you can wipe this back. And so you don't want to go too heavy here because you want to get that overlap line blended as soon as possible. So get it in there. Just push it in, give it a nice little dip again. And then wipe and blend. So as long as you don't leave this section too long where you overlap like here, then you'll be able to blend it and it won't look doubled up. So I don't think I dipped far enough in my little pot here. There we go. Whoops. There we go. Okay, now dip again. Whoops. And then wipe. And if you can do it fast enough and you've got some extra in there, then just go ahead and wipe the remaining from your brush. And then just wipe this all at once. Okay, so just watch your edges in case you got a little squished. When you get over on this side, you squish a little bit so you get some stain running out, but for now that looks good. So now, so when you flip this over, make sure that this is clean. Like, you don't want to have any puddles. If this sits in a puddle, then you'll get those little puddle marks in the front, and there's not much we can do to lighten that once you've done that. So make sure it's clean. If you have to flip your piece over or whatever you have on the table, then you can do that. So now you've got about half a container left. I mean, at least I do. And now you can go and do the rest. So I'm not gonna wipe until I get it all on. Just blow that stain. So as you can see, I don't start exactly where I leave off because I kind of blend into that. And I never usually start at the edge. That way my least amount of stain will be hitting the edge when I do it. And then it won't drip over. Okay, so just wipe this. And then just avoid putting your hands on it if your gloves are dirty. But what you'll want to do is flip this over and let it dry with the good side up. That way you know nothing is wrong with it. So it's starting to dry because it's starting to lighten. So I'm just going to set this off to the side. And then you can be done with your stain. Okay, so that is done. So that should be more than enough for you. And I even have, like, I don't know, a third of my container left. So, so I will be right back. I'm just going to wash my brush and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I'm just going to take my gloves off. So I'm just going to reuse my paper towel. I just flipped it the other way so that way I can do my blotting off there. But either grab yourself a new piece of paper towel or whatever. We'll need it for blotting when we do our next color. So I'm going to do white. So that means I'm going to need my tape, which I forgot to grab. So I'll be right back. Okay, so with the white part, which is the map, so you'll want to remove, oops, I have it upside down. Yes, I do. So you'll want to remove these flowers, the compass part, and these flowers here. These ones are the background ones, so those can be kept white. So I'm just going to tape off on the back the ones that I want to keep in there. So I definitely want to keep those little islands, so it's easier if I cover those ones up first. Okay, so when I take the tape off in the front, those will fall out and I can come right across here. If I could tape them on the back, guys, when we take them out of the laser, I would do that, but then I'd be dealing with a million little pieces and then trying to put them back together, which is never fun. Okay, so these ones will come out and these ones will come out. So now you can flip this over and you can take your tape off. So these are going to pop out right away. So all of those insides, they can go in the garbage because we just need the frame of it. So I'm just going to do this, get rid of that. You can try and reuse your tape, but usually once you peel it off and it has little wood fibers, it doesn't stick very well to the back of the glossy part of the adhesive. So unfortunately, it is a big waste. Okay, these ones are going to start falling out here. Okay, so I'll pop those 3 out. Set these over to the side. There's 5 there. Okay, and then there. So all of this is going to be white, and we might as well do it in the template because it's a lot easier. So I'm not sure how much white you're getting right now. I'm experimenting with the 1/4 ounce, so you guys could end up getting 2 of these because I already poured the other one. So, all right, so get your foam wedge. You'll probably want to use the big one because that way you can do this bigger area faster. So I'm just gonna dip in here. Now, normally I would blot off, but we do have a lot of big area. So I'm actually gonna start in the middle of that and then dispense to the smaller area. So that way I don't have to waste so much. So if you start that way, then you can use most of it up before you hit the edge. You wanna try and be even with your application. Especially these bigger areas with white, you'll kind of have to be careful with your overlap lines. You'll probably end up doing it with 3. It took me 3 on the first sample, so that's why you just want to do thin coats. And if you don't want a whole bunch on there, just kind of wipe it off or blot it on here so that way you can use that part up if you want. So these smaller islands will be easier. It's really this big area that is the hardest to blend. Oops, okay, so I'm just gonna deal with this side. I mean, if you want to, you can always, just gonna try and drag that a bit. Use a baby wipe. Sometimes when I have that little extra on here, I'll push it on here, and then you kind of saw me drag my baby wipe across, or my foam wedge across, so it kind of smooths that dabbing marks out. But you at least have to have a little bit of paint so you can kind of get it to move. Okay, so I'll kind of show you. So I'm dabbing this on. Watch my edges so I don't fill it too much. See, because that's kind of messy, right? So if I kind of take my wet sponge and gently slide it across, sometimes I can just do that. And then I can use the rest up over here. Okay, try this once more. So kind of get it on and then just kind of wipe it. You might get a little bit on those edges. It won't bother me. It usually isn't too much, just a little color. When you kind of rub it like those, sometimes you can kind of rub some of the sponge, so you might get these little fuzzies, but Sometimes it kind of helps to even out the white color. That one kind of has an overlap, and I kind of drag so you can kind of see how it lifted. That's fine. Once I sand it, it'll kind of blend a little bit more, but okay. So now these pieces here, I might just dump a little bit out onto here because I don't want quite as much. So the colors we're doing, I'm just in love with the spring colors. So my spring colors are on everything. So if you want reds and that with yours, if you've got red in your stash, you're more than welcome to change out those colors. I'm not much of a red person, only with barn stuff, like farmhousey kind of stuff, but anything else I tend to like the more subtle. I'm doing a video, dude.
There's a spider in some weird part of my door and I can't really find my killer.
Okay, guys, I've got to put you on pause. I gotta go kill a spider. Okay, I'm back. Killed a spider. Anyways, let's see, what did we do here? Oh yeah, we missed this piece. Oops, I guess I had some on the tray. Okay, so this piece here. There we go. Okay, so this is kind of dry, so I'm just gonna work around that little bit there. So I'm just gonna give that a light sand. Oh, I hate this part of the table, guys. Always gives me a little bit of a funny middle here. All right, so make sure that, I'm gonna just shift it over here for a second, guys, so I can get a nice flat surface here. Okay, and well, that's kind of still wet. So, all right, so now I'm gonna just keep doing it again till I get the coverage that I want. So you can watch, but it'll be really, really fast. Okay, so we'll see you in a bit. So that's coat number 2. So right now it's just drying. That's why some things look darker and lighter. And this part, if I remember correctly, I know it's still uneven, but I can't remember if there's a funny grain going through that part. So, so yeah, I'm just gonna let it dry. It won't take long because my coats are really thin. Remember, this area doesn't have to be totally perfect because, well, we're covering it up. So I'm just gonna go grab a different sponge because I can work on this color while this one is drying, and then we can move things ahead a little bit. Well, this isn't the biggest piece, but it will work. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of my green, and you shouldn't, oh yeah, this is a bottle. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay, so this is kiwi. Take your color, and then you can just start adding that all over. So yes, this sign is kind of similar to, like, it's the same idea we did for that spring truck. It's the same designer, and I don't know, it's really hard to do Canada Day. You know, sometimes people don't like all that red, or they want something that might, you know, go in their home for more than just, you know, one little holiday. So that's kind of why I tried to make it a little bit more special, but still celebrate, you know, Canada. Okay, that one needs more. So you're gonna do, you'll probably need 2 coats on this. then that part will be done. Okay, so that's a good rough coat. So we'll let that one dry, and then I'm going to come back to this, and this is dry again. So I'm going to do one more coat, give it a sand first, and then make sure that, you know, if your coats are a little heavy, which you shouldn't be, you want to make sure that you can wiggle those letters out of there and then they're not stuck. And those are good. So alright, so just make sure you kind of wipe off that dust so it doesn't settle in there. And this time I'm going to come at it upside down, because sometimes you paint different one way than you do the other, so it's just what I do. So there we go. Okay, so I'm going to go do this one again. I'll speed it up so you don't have to watch me, and we'll go from there. Alright. So that is 3 coats I've done, and I still have about a quarter left. So that's really how thin I'm putting the coats on. So you shouldn't be going like super heavy. I mean, yes, white takes a while to cover, and I mean, if you want, you can always do 4, but it's easier to control that overlap marks if you can keep your coats thin. I mean, if you want to paint this with a brush, that's fine too, and you still paint it in the template. Just, you know, be careful of these edges that you just don't get too much inside there. But if you give it a wiggle and you don't worry so much that you could have, you know, a bit more on the edges than you want, then you might like that too. So, whoops, shouldn't have done that. There we go. So I'm just going to, well, I guess I'm going to pop this one out. So these are the flowers. So they're fine. I'm not worried. It's already dry. So I'm pretty good with it. The lighting in here is not the best, even though I have my light. But I might need some touch-ups here or there. But the flowers will be overlapped. These are pretty thin enough that they're fine. So if anything, I might just need a little bit more on the big one. But like I said, this covers up, you know, that part there. So anyway, so I'm just gonna let this dry, and we will come on over here and do our greenery again. Okay. Just be careful with this when you're sanding it. Just really hold on tight and don't go back and forth quite so much. Maybe just sand in one direction so that way it doesn't catch on those, all those different leaves. There we go. So now that's nice and smooth. And if after your first coat, if you did enough and it looks fine and you like how it looks, you can totally leave it. But I'm gonna do one more, and of course we'll send you enough to do 2, but all right. So that's code number 2, and that's fine. So as you can see, I haven't pulled out a baby wipe at all, because something like this is really hard to wipe. I mean, sure, you could get some of it, but you might miss the insides. And once you start, you know, it just kind of, you either got to do it all or just leave it. So, I mean, my coats aren't that heavy, so you can just see a little dusting of paint on the edge. So that's totally fine. It's a leaf. leaves, so it really doesn't matter there. So as I come back to my white, I might do one more coat, guys, but you know, I'm not going to put it in the video because, well, you don't need to see me paint the same thing 4 different times. So I'll decide, but I'll let you know what I've done when we come back to assemble it later. Okay, so what you can do now is you can grab, actually, even though I'm deciding on this, I am going to pop these out, because if you leave it overnight, you don't want your pieces to get stuck in there. So I would suggest popping out all of the pieces that are smaller, so you know that you won't break them when you try and get them out tomorrow or the next day or whatever day it is that you can put it together. So all right, so those are the single parts. So now with this piece, just, you know, be a little more cautious. Just gonna pull the tape back. There we go. Perfect. So now all those pieces are out, and you don't have to worry about if they'll be able to come out or not. So, okay, there we go. Okay, so let that sit. This one should be fine too, but I'm just gonna pull it out. There is some finer pieces in there, so like in here, so you definitely want to make those come out. So that one can come out as well. And yeah, my whole thing's gonna start coming apart since I pulled the tape. So just be careful of when you start pulling the tape off, because it's gonna start lifting off the pieces that are already taken out. So you can always just pull everything out and then just put your other piece back, but you just want to check these little islands. Make sure you can get those out of there. There we go. Okay. So now I'm just going to set that to the side. Okay. There we go. So where was I? Oh yes, these ones. Okay. So in mine, I did all of this one. I did in the pink, which is papaya, which is a P on your little container. These ones are cantaloupes with the C, and then I did these ones and the apricot. So, let's see if any of my old tape will work for this. So, grab some tape. I mean, you can put them back in there if you're done with your white and you popped everything out. You can always paint them in there. That's an option too. However, I don't want to pull it out yet, so I am just going to hold this back and make sure you guys can see. All right. And then I'm going to stick mine to the paper. Make sure you guys can see that. Yeah, you can. Okay, so I'm going to put this one here, and the cantaloupe one's here, and those ones are stuck. So, and then I'll get another one for these guys. Okay. So just watch when you put them. Sometimes you'll get the shiny part up because they're so close, but you'll notice because sometimes there's a little green. But if you don't, just double check, because one side's a little glossy and the other side is not. So anyways, give those a good push, and then grab some little sponge pieces that you might have left. If not, and you don't have any other extra sponges, then use your white one, cut it up and start making small pieces. But I want to cut mine up yet because I'm probably going to need it. So I'm just going to use my little scraps at the moment. So we need papayas. You won't need very much of that. Okay, so that's the papaya, and cantaloupe. Grab my other one. Okay. I mean, if you guys want to change your combination of colors, you can. I just did them this way because I did the similar flowers in the similar colors, so. Okay, so that's those ones. This one is already dry, so I'm just gonna pop it off real quick. Give it a sand, and if you could hear that, that was my son yelling at his computer. All right, so finish that one. Okay, so that one is done. Just leave that one. And these ones are dry too. So really, if you do those thin coats, like, well, it's a little bit warm in here, so it is drying faster. Okay. And make sure you grab the right one. Okay, those two colors are done. And then next, we're gonna do apricot. And I don't know if I have another sponge. Hold on, guys, I gotta go look. Okay, I don't. So I'm just gonna cut this really, really small. That's fine. Okay. Okay, here we go. I think this is the first box that I actually haven't had to pull out the baby wipes, which is quite not like me. Anyways, not that I'm a messy painter, but some things you just can't wipe. So, okay. So I'm just gonna quickly sand these and set that off to the side. And maybe come and sand this. Okay, so that one's ready to go for later. Okay, these ones, they're still, nope, they're fine. But I'm not gonna sand them right now because as soon as I pop them off, because they're so little, they don't want to stick to the tape anymore, and then they start bouncing all over the place. So I'm just gonna give them a good second coat. And then because the color's so light, you're not gonna notice anything. But I definitely will want them smooth, but I will not do them until I pull them right off the tape. And I won't sand them that hard. But, okay, so those ones are done as well. So, I'm going to stop right now. I know my battery is about to die, but I will probably go and touch up this bigger part of this and just add a little bit more color on probably the bigger part. And then the next day I will come back and we will put it all together. All right, guys, you have a good night and we will talk to you soon. Okay, bye. Hi guys, I'm back. I'm just leaving off on the map part here, or the Canada part. Now, if you're struggling with getting a nice even white with the foam wedge, you could always go in and take the big part out of the template and paint it with the brush. Just be careful of your edges. Another thing too is you can take your baby wipe and your paint and just blot that off, and then you can wipe. And then usually you have a lot better control of getting those edges without getting so much off the edge. So that's another way you can do that. Now, usually when you wipe it on with the baby wipe, this is coat number, I don't know, I think I'm on coat. I did 3 and then I'm just doing a final touch up with the baby wipe, is that it'll take a few more coats. I mean, you're not using quite as much paint, so you should still be fine, but this can help even out some of that unevenness that can be when you're putting white on, especially on a surface that is all over the place. But you can at least wipe it on, and you can see my edges are really not getting like hardly any paint, if any at all. But yeah, so you can just come in here and touch those up. Remember, this part is going to get covered up, but if you're finding some in the middle here, so I'm just going to let this dry for a few minutes, because now that I did this, I can't assemble. You can do that as well. So just a little tip, just make sure you're wiping it all in the same direction if you can. But it's just wet right now, so I can see some lines, but I'll come back in a few minutes and then we'll start to put this together. All right, see you soon. Actually, while we wait, let's do something else here. So I'm just gonna set this off to the side, and in the meantime, we could even put our flowers together. We've got this back piece and these 3 pieces. So these will correspond to the fronts. So just find the side that's close, and then there, just figure out. So just peel your backs off. So those ones are ready to go, and I'm just gonna bring back my board here. So I'm thinking we're pretty good, and it's dry enough for me to touch. So while we get the backboard ready, we can let this dry a little longer. So I haven't sanded this board yet, but I wanted to mention, so you can either do it before you stain or after, but we didn't come in here and sand these edges. So depending if you want any distressing to show, might determine if you do it before or after. If you don't want any distressing, then maybe take your sandpaper before and do this, but you don't have to press very hard. So if you did forget, just go gently. It'll just help eliminate any fuzzy edge that might have occurred when those lines were put in when they were cut. So you can just do that, and then you can come in here and give your board a sand. You want to go with the grain, and if you want to distress those edges, just wear them down as you're doing it. So I'm just putting a little wear on there. I like that, so, but you choose what you like, and then don't forget the edges. on the back. Sorry guys for jiggling the camera. Okay, so that's done. So give that a wipe. Get all that dust off of here. Okay, so now when I assemble mine, my board, this here, let me bring it out. So to maximize our wood, I made your guys a little skinnier and reposition some of these things. So you will have to center it this way because it will be the same width as mine on this one. But you will have to, yours will line up against your edge here. Well, I will have to kind of center mine on the top and bottom. So because this way, once you get started, we're going to put a couple little ones in place so that way your board won't move at all while you're putting your pieces in. So just give me a second to steady this. So I'm going to, I need to watch this little teeny one, and I'm sure I did your guys's so it's not quite on that line, but I don't know if I want it up that high. Okay. Not straight. Okay, it'll have to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my littler pieces and put them in place. So you're just going to peel that back off, shove them in, and then make sure, you know, nothing's moved and it's all good to go. So sorry guys, if I don't get it straight, it will bug me. So, okay, I think that's good. So I'll grab, which one? This one. Okay. Okay, so same thing, just take that, hold on to your template and then press it into place. I'm gonna do this big circle here and then I can work on all the rest. So really pretty easy for assembly, at least till we get to the flowers part. So I'm just gonna let it go really fast as I do this part. And there we go. Don't think there was any wrong way or right way with the circle. It should be fine no matter which direction it goes. So when you're doing this one, actually I'll talk about this one before I speed it up. Just you can either lay it on your surface and hold it that way so you can protect, so you have a bit more control and you don't break your piece, or you can do it in the air, but you really need to support wherever you're pulling on your tape, or I mean on the back part, so that way you don't snap it. So you can see wherever my hands are, that's where I'm pulling on that backing. Not getting too far ahead. I'm right there. There we go. Okay. And now you can just set that into place. This is the one you really want to make make sure it's straight, and I'm sure it was fine. Okay. So now I'm just gonna go really quick here. Now, if you want, especially to make sure if your word is lined up straight, I've just pulled this off just to make sure, you know, and I just kind of touched them in place. These ones I kind of pushed on it a little bit more, but these ones I just kind of set there, and I know it kind of defeats the purpose if you've already stuck these ones on. But if I have to, I can always just gently try and give it a little tweak before I really push on those words. So it's gonna go like that, and I should be fine. Yeah, everything seems to be just fine. There we go. Okay, so those are done, and then you can come in and do the rest of the little islands here. Okay, there, and then I have these two. So this one sits right on, it's kind of right in line. So if you see this particular one right here sitting right in the open gap, like I'm doing my best, guys, because I have to cut all these lines by hand on the table saw. So I would suggest, you know, once you have all these pieces out, depending, they should be exactly the same no matter which way I turn the board, but if you try it, if you find it works better turning the board one way or the other and it doesn't sit right on that groove, then that's good. Or if you want to just tweak it up a little bit, it's just that you want it it doesn't have a whole lot to sit on, so you need to have more than just that little bit, because if you ever moved it and you didn't secure it enough, you could lose that little piece. So you definitely want it to sit more on the board part than you do on the groove. So oops, I forgot to sand that one. Okay, so those ones are all done, and my other part is ready to go. Okay, so I'm just gonna clear me a spot here. Okay, so I'm just gonna go like this. And I'll probably get rid of this. Okay, so you're gonna flip it over. Now sometimes with these bigger pieces, they tend to want to peel the adhesive off a little bit easier, no matter how much I burnish it on. So just take your time. So if you want, you can use the back of your fingernail, or if you've got like a scraper or something, but you might find as you get into these bigger areas that you'll need to give it a bit of a rub. So okay, so for this way, you're gonna, well, I guess it really doesn't matter, but you might find it easier to try and go towards the curve, so that way you can peel it off that way. So just watch when you pick at the ends though, that you're not picking at the wood and breaking off that layer. So because sometimes it can happen. So just be very careful. So I'm just going to try and pull this so I can come back at it this way. If you go the other way, then there's the possibility that you'll just rip right off there. So and sometimes if you can't use your fingers, then an X-Acto knife is always helpful, or a pin. Okay, and when you're supporting it, make sure you're holding the sides and not on it, because your fingers will lift it up, especially for those newer people who are joining us this month. So welcome. Okay. All right. Okay, there. Now, bring this back, and then you can set this in. Okay, and I didn't sand this one, so I'm actually, especially with the edges so jagged, sometimes sanding out of the template is a little bit more difficult and it can get caught when you're sanding. So having it in this and being able to sand without catching those edges and breaking them always is, a lot better. There we go. Okay. Now we can lift it off because we don't need it anymore. All right, so next is this piece, and this was where it will come right over here and fit exactly. So you can take that, and my pieces are cut with a whole bunch of different strips. Yours will be fine. So this will just take me a moment and I will speed it up again. Now I've got them all. Okay, so take your piece and gently lay it on top, making sure you're getting all those edges lined up before you press it into place. There we go. And then just give that a press. Okay, so when it comes to the flowers, for those who did the truck, there was little lines or little dots and stuff to help with placement. But on this template, she didn't have that. So you really just get to put these, I gotta go get my picture because it will bug me if I don't have it the same. So I'm going to pause and I'll be right back so I can figure out where I laid these all out. But for now, I'm just gonna throw them all on here. But yeah, you really just figure out what looks good for you and where you want them. But I know I got them all in here, so I just want to make sure I've got it how it was. I guess that looks so good too. So really you could just play around with how you like its placement. Just want it balanced. Like this one is the bigger of the three, so I would at least keep it separate and put the two smaller ones on the opposite end. Yeah, actually, I'm okay with that. So, and now I won't grab my other photo. I'm just going to start peeling and placing back where I had them. Okay, this is the last one. Okay, it's all done. So I hope you enjoyed this project. I kind of wanted something for Canada Day that just wasn't traditional colors, but if you feel you want to change that up, like I said, you can create it however you like. This is just the body of it. So anyways, thanks you guys for joining me this month, and I will see you back next month, which is July. All right, thanks guys.